Hey, how you doing? This is Scott from FloridaGeekScene.com, and I have an interview today with Robie D. Fox of Foxheart Studios. We're here at West Orange Comics and Video Games in Ocoee, Florida, and we're gonna have a few questions with Robie, and he's gonna talk about Foxheart Studios and his two books, Cyberman Origins and Vincor Origins. And this is Robie D. Fox. If you don't know him, he's doing conventions now. He's selling his books in comic shops locally and in some other states. And he is an independent publisher and writer. Robie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I started writing in middle school after I played Injustice 2. I got infatuated with the designs of characters and kind of wanted to do my own designs and things of that nature. So I started writing character profiles and things of that in middle school. Then came high school, I started actual scripts after I just had all these profiles laying around, scripts and world building. And then when I was in 14, in the 9th grade, I took a comic writing workshop in a local comic book store. And then, that sparked, further infatuation because I knew what I was doing after that. It was a gateway. So when I was 17, I used birthday and holiday savings to hire overseas artists from Indonesia to get my first book, Cyberman, done. And after that, I got this book, Vincor, done for almost the same price, but, better art.
Okay. So which store were you at where they had a comic book class or comic book writing class?
It was at Blackbird Comics and Comic House down in Maitland.
Cool. And that was your inspiration to get into this, or you were already into it, but that was what kicked it off, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was a sort of gateway into comics specifically, because in middle school I just knew I wanted to be a writer, but not like what kind of field.
Cool. Okay. And tell me about Foxheart Studios. How did you first come up with Foxheart Studios?
I was just thinking of names for a while, but foxes were my favorite names. So like my online, persona used the fox, which is why I used the fox mask, because I used that in videos as a content creator and a writer. And I guess foxes, I just the cunningness of them, the smartness. So I felt it would replicate and work in like a good media because they seem kind of cheeky, kind of like in a venue of a Bugs Bunny. How he's kind of schemy and cheeky. Reminded me of that. So I decided to make a fox mascot. At instance, I was kind of obsessed with character designs. More mascots came along, and I got like 17 mascots now. Some of them for like imprints for what I do in the future.
Okay.
My third and fourth books are both planned to be under Foxheart imprints. So
would you say a fox is your favorite animal?
Yeah.
Is it your spirit animal?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's cool. So tell me about Cyberman Origins.
So Cyberman was the first character I made back when I was 11 in middle school. When I originally made him, he was kind of an Iron. He was kind of an Iron Man ripoff when I first originally made him. Because back in high school, I kind of went through and redid a lot of my characters because they were kind of just like palette swaps of pre-existing, give them their own space. So Cyberman, his story revolves him rebelling against his mom because she's rich off of her parents who found cyber essence, which is this godly piece of technology that can fuse and upgrade anything. She tries to groom him to be a mafioso, but he rebels, building his own suit. I don't know how good you can tell, but his suit is supposed to be designed off a knight. As you can see, the emblem is like a shield. So that's what he's like a futuristic tech knight guy.
Okay, cool. Now tell me about your second book.
So Vincor was about, Zachary, who was this NASA scientist guy originally from Canada. The story takes place in Canada, though I didn't go over that. And he gets experimented on and turned into an alien against his will, which is what this cover is. Him is this big 7-foot alien man. And this book tends to draw more people. I guess being turned into an alien sounds like a real interesting concept to people.
Okay, cool. So between Vincor and Cyberman, Vincor is your more popular character or more popular book?
Yeah, it seems that way.
Okay.
Since it was my second book, it's more like furnished, has an actual pen name and a fully realized logo. So that's the one I kind of tend to show off more when I'm presenting to do.
Okay. So tell me about your other characters that are within the books. That you said you have other characters.
Yeah.
So
So in Vincor, we got this girl that's on the cover with Vincor. She's about like 5'3", so you can really see the height disparity because Vincor's like 7 feet. It's Michaela. She's kind of, basically the leader of a space funding organization. So, independent, I guess, like SpaceX or Blue Origins.
Right.
Like a Canadian base, since they're Canadian. So, she's that thing, and she basically acts as a goofy, energetic person to bounce off of Vincor's, his little, the stone guy, the smart guy, her antics, even though technically she's smarter, which I found would make for a good comedy. Despite the fact that he's the more serious, stone-faced one, she's actually the smarter of the two scientists.
Okay. Cool. And in Cyberman Origins?
Well, we got his mom here that was the villain as the main thing. Then, got his grandpa. Though most of them, most of his family members didn't really have plans to do them later. They were more so accessories to this one-shot origin story. So there is a certain character in here who I'm not gonna name because I want it to be like secret, but I was planning to take one of the characters in here, and she was gonna be actually another hero in this verse. So she already has a pre-existing relationship with Cyberman whenever I get to her book.
Okay. So what do you have coming up in the future? You already have plans for new titles, sequels. What's the future look like for these characters? Like, what do you have coming up, or are you just going to continue to new characters?
I was probably going to continue on one-shots. I was going to get like a roster of one-shots before I loop back around to build a universe. I was working on my third book, which is just has the cover art being done by Emily Rosette, which is planned to be a manga one-shot pilot. It's a pilot because it's not a one-shot in a venue of these. It's like the chapter 1. I don't have the facilities to do a whole manga, so it's the pilot draft.
Right.
So something to pitch, because obviously just pitching ideas isn't very good or very productive. Pitching an actual finished product shows that you can actually do something.
Right. So tell me what goes into your books. What's your process?
The process, well, I sort of tend to bounce around. I feel like usually they're inspired by the character designs. So I got inspired by designs. So I'll just see something and randomly come up with a character design, and then from that design is like the linchpin of which I come up with like their origins and their powers and like the world around them. It's all based around that central design. So like Vincor, I just knew he was going to be this big blue alien guy, and then it started coming more and more around. I had to get him redesigned because his first design kind of looked too much like Optimus Prime.
Okay.
So I had to get him redesigned to slim him down and give him the tail. But yeah, and I knew he was going to be like one of my strongest characters in the verse, which is why he has this like big imposing demeanor, as opposed to Cyberman, who's more grounded. So his cover is him breaking free. So you can tell by the angling on both of their covers how I wanted to play in the perspective of power, because for those that like strength, Vincor is stronger than Cyberman by like a lot.
Right. Okay. So tell me about everyone else who's on the book, who helps you out, like Nakase and Bosco and Miliani and Wyman. Who are they?
Alright, so I went and got like freelancers. So Bosco I've been liking because he kind of spoiled me with the cover arts, because when I first got these done, I didn't have the design ideas done. So I could just kind of give him a design idea for a cover, and he would just do it. Like for my fourth book that I have him doing the cover for, he was just able to whip up a design for the imprint, and he actually liked the design of the character that I wanted the mascot for. So he was like, oh, can I do this? Like, he was experimenting. Then of course he was doing the lettering, because not all cover artists actually do the lettering. I found that when I was talking to Miss Rosette, how she's only really does illustrations and isn't too versed in lettering. So that kind of delayed my third book to go get a letterer independently.
Okay.
Yeah, then I got Nakase for the cover art. He was in Indonesia, and so he was a webtoon based artist. So that way, I was being flexible. Originally I planned to do a webtoon, but then I released it physical. But I was also like, oh, since you're webtoon, can I charge you panel wise instead of page wise? So his chargings were like in batches of 20 panels, which were like a couple pages each, instead of the normal page by page convention. And then same thing for this one with Miliani, who was based in France, I believe it was. It's France. I almost said Italy because Bosco's Italian.
Okay.
Miliani was from France, and his price was like only like $5 more than the Case at the time. But afterwards, after completing this book, he got some stuff on his resume, so he increased his prices more to industry standards. So I was lucky to get this gem done before he went like above my price bracket.
Okay. Tell me about your logo. Tell me about your shirt right there. What's the swords and the? I understand the fox, but what's the representation? I understand it's for Fox Art Studios, but is there a meaning behind with the swords and the glimmer in the eye and it looks like a hoodie around that or something?
Yeah, so the hoodie, I just kind of like the fashion. I like that design with the red and the white because that's like my favorite color combination. And then this kind of goes into some of my themes, some inspiration from One Piece, which is like my favorite anime manga, which is where I got the D in my pen name. So, I wanted to make it so I have my own crew. Like, that's what my mascots are, crew pirates. That's why they got bounty posters. In verse lore-wise, they're the narrators behind the scenes. And so these swords acting like crossbones, so it's meant to be like a pirate flag.
Okay, cool. So inspiration-wise, you said that Cyberman was sort of inspired by Iron Man. So who inspired Vincor? What character?
It's Vincor, he was also in that sci-fi line, so he kind of had a few inspirations like Blue Beetle, Cyborg, Martian Manhunter. Those were a couple. I think there's one more that I'm missing. Oh yeah, Thor, because of the lightning. Thor is one of my favorite Marvel characters. Like lightning is my favorite element, so I was like, I just need a lightning guy, which is probably why he's one of my strongest guys in the verse, because I was like, I just had to go hard for lightning. So I gave him this big design and a lot of powers, because if you read the story, you see that like his power is like from God. So he's like a real heavy hitter.
Cool. Sorry. So you've been doing conventions and you've been selling your books at shops. What are some of the conventions that you've been a part of?
I've been to Galactic Comics, been to Rise of Phoenix. I think those were my first few. Going to be a Rise of Phoenix again next Saturday, on June 14th, I believe it is. And then tomorrow, after this, I'm going to like a convention. I think it was a weed place called like Cookies. They're doing an outdoor convention with like a camp setup. And that one will be like more exposure because I'll be like the only comic guy there. Because a lot of these other conventions, it tends to be around the same area. So like, if it's the same people going, you kind of tend to see the same creators.
Right.
So if it's like a lot of people there already bought my stuff, so I might get less sales until I get some new stuff.
Right. Makes sense. And I know you've been going around to a lot of shops. What other shops, what other shops are selling your books?
Well, a lot of them have sold out. I don't remember how many have in stock, but I've been to Crumb's World, Blackbird, and I've been to Acme. They've got some. And then Funny Faces went way out there. They got some. Then I think I've been to Gods and Monsters as well. They also got some, obviously here, West Orange Comics Video Games. I think those are like the main 6 I can think of off the top. And then, of course, I've been to Texas. So I got some in Atomic Monkey down in Houston, Texas, along with Third Impact down in Houston, Texas.
Cool. So after the convention tomorrow and Rise of the Phoenix, where are you going to be next?
Hadn't quite figured that out.
Okay.
I have an in-store signing planned at Blackbird when I get my manga pilot finished. I was probably going to do some more signings around stores. I was planning on possibly doing a variant cover for my manga to get it more promotional, since obviously this is like a one-shot, but it's a pilot. So, I want more eyes on it to possibly get picked up, become like a full-fledged series, but like an actual publisher, indie-wise.
Right. Cool. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. You have any last words? You can tell us you just told us what stores you're carrying your books. How about online? Can they get your books online?
I got my books for sale digitally. Don't have them shipping out yet. Down at Gumroad. I have the links in my website, which is foxisland.card.co, and that's card with 2 R's. And then, of course, I got my social media. which has the link to my website and my Instagram, which is Foxos777, as well as that's the same on YouTube and TikTok. But of course, my Instagram is the only one with the link to my website at the moment.
All right. Well, I think that's it. You have any last words?
Like it's just follow and support and look into it, because even if you don't buy the stuff, a follow on Instagram or social media would be helpful.
All right. Thanks for doing the interview.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. All righty.